days before this spiritual wedding, came to me and basically told me that he still has been having dreams about a girl that he had direction on before me.
So you go through with the wedding even after he talks about how he thinks that another girl should be a part of things. So then how did the marriage go after that?
Our marriage was essentially just two kids getting to know each other in a normal way where we can date and just be with each other, I guess. We lived in his parents' basement. In the beginning, we didn't really fight a lot. I ended up filing for divorce because we didn't really talk about polygamy or anything like that for almost a year, actually. And then he came to me and told me that he was having dreams again about this same girl that he is supposed to marry. And I just remember being really distraught and being like, well, I haven't had any direction. I haven't been told any of this by God. And we had agreed that unless we both receive direction about this, we're not going to live that way. He would start to go to the dances without me because he had convinced me that he just loves hanging out with his friends there. I didn't really care to go. And so I just was like, okay, whatever. And then I remember it was like almost midnight. Actually, I think it was midnight because the dances sometimes go a little late. And then he would just be hanging out with his friends afterwards. And I remember getting a call from you and you were like, hey, your husband is in the back of the parking lot with a girl. And I'm like, what the? And
How was her back?
And so I call him and start asking him, like, what are you doing? And then he, like, gets very defensive, obviously blows up into this big old thing. He had been apparently dancing with this other girl and talking with her outside in the parking lot. I don't know, whatever else. When he got home, we just had a big, huge fight about it, and he wouldn't really even communicate to me what was going on. And so we just kind of blew it off for a little bit. But then the next time he went to a dance, like, I wasn't okay with it. I was like, why are you going to a dance? And so I knew, obviously, I couldn't trust him. He was lying to me. He wasn't being honest. And so I was upset about the fact that he was going to a dance again. I ended up calling that girl.
Right.
Yeah, that's okay. What it was.
So you called her and let her know that you were not aware? Or did she know that you weren't aware?
Yeah, so I called her and I was just like, hey, I just wanted to call you and talk to you because I don't feel right about this. I don't feel right that you and my husband are talking and he's not being honest with me. He's doing this behind my back. And anyway, we just had an open communication about it. Essentially, she ended up telling me, well, I haven't really had direction on him. And she kind of basically hinted at the fact that she is
not interested,
basically. I was just like, well, okay, well, I appreciate you, being honest. Like, apparently I have to communicate with you because my husband won't communicate with me. Mm-hmm. So, but then he comes home that night and gets so angry with me, and he literally pulls out my suitcase, throws it on the ground, and says, pack up your stuff and leave. He tried to kick me out that night, and I basically was like, you can't kick me out of my own house. And he was trying to say, like, this is my house because this is my dad's house. This is my parents' house. Anyways, so it came down to, he's like, fine, I'm leaving, but you better be gone by the time I get back tomorrow. And I just remember being so distraught. I could not believe that he would kick me out. I could not believe that he would just try to throw me out in the streets. Like, he didn't care.
And this was like a year into the marriage?
Just over a year.
I think it's so crazy how you had got to experience both sides of it. How you were the other woman when the married guy was trying to marry you, and then you became the woman with your married husband trying to marry someone else.
Yeah.
You kind of handled it the same way, though. Just communicating to the girl because the guy was just not understanding, I guess, that women don't want to be cheated on.
Yeah.
It's so hard for the men in the order to put themselves in the women's shoes. I don't know why. I don't understand. They put themselves on this higher pedestal. I don't get it.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
But so after that, he told you that you needed to be out of the house by a certain time?
Yeah, he basically was just like, because I was like, I'm not leaving. I live here. This is my house too. And anyway, he was just like, fine. Then you better be gone by the time I get back tomorrow because I'm not going to stay here. I didn't sleep that whole night. I had a huge pit in my stomach. So I called my Aunt Teresa. It's the only person I felt like I could turn to.
She wasn't in the order.
Right.
She would, I feel like, understand more than even Mom would.
Yeah. Yeah. So but it was really late. So she was like, oh, okay, I'll pick you up in the morning then because she knew he wasn't there at that point. So I just waited all night. I had packed up whatever I could fit in my suitcase and waited for her to pick me up. Tried to fall asleep, but it was a big deal because up until this point, I had never thought of leaving him. I never thought I would leave the order up until this point.
Now all this is coming down, and like we had not known of anyone who gets divorces, and like divorce is not heard of in the order. So it's like, now what?
Yeah.
You probably felt like you couldn't call Mom because, like, then you're, like, a failure, kind of. Then I remember you left. You were at Teresa's house, and I don't know what happened, but we went back and, like, broke in to get your stuff.
Oh, yeah. So, because I remember I stayed at Teresa's for a little bit, and I were texting back and forth about it, and he just kept standing his ground in the sense that he was like, well, I know that I'm supposed to marry her. And I'm just like, how can you even... Anyways, so I needed to get some more of my stuff, and so I went back to just go pick up some things, and all the locks were changed. I couldn't get into the place. And so...
And your stuff is in there, so legally you have a right to it, and that was not fair of him to change the locks like that.
Legally, I live there. And so, anyway, so I kind of broke in. There was a back door that I was able to get into.
I remember we even asked his sister for, like, a screwdriver or something.
Yeah, she helped us break in, basically.
Because that was your stuff was in there. That was not okay. I kind of am, like, shocked that you didn't see any of that side of him in the beginning.
I know.
But, like, you're very blinded by love. It was your first time, your first everything, so.
Yeah.
But, I remember him coming home, and his sister must have called him and let him know that we were breaking in to your own home. He came home and was, like, screaming.
He was, that was the scariest I've ever seen.
All I remember was I was like, you're supposed to take care of her. What are you doing? Because I was so upset that he locked you out of your own house. And then he screamed at me.
I was so scared. Like, I got in the middle of both of them, and I was just like, Manna, let's go. We need to leave.
The fact that he felt okay with screaming I was 16 at the time. Being like, I've done everything for your sister. It's like, if you're, like, that just shows a lot about you. That a 16-year-old could make you that upset. But I'm sure, like, there was a lot of stress on everything. Like, I try to give him the benefit of the doubt that he was also brainwashed, and he also had a very crappy childhood and upbringing. But that doesn't make it okay to treat you that way. Yeah. And, like, I have a very, like, I think I'll always have, not hate in my heart towards him, but I will never be able to look at him the same, knowing that he treated you like that. My sister, my blood, you know. Right. As soon as someone does that to my own blood, it's like, it's one thing when you do it to me, but when you do it to her, you're dead to me. So then after that, you basically were moved out, right? And then you filed for divorce. Yeah,
well, I didn't take all of my stuff with me. After that, he was just livid. He literally packed up all of my stuff with his dad and just threw it out on my mom's lawn.
Not telling them anything, too. Mom had no idea you guys were having marriage troubles.
They wouldn't even speak to my mom. My mom came outside and like, what's going on? And then he was like, talk to your daughter. I'm like, yeah, because I remember just getting a call from Mom, and she was like, are you okay? What's going on? And I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, your stuff is being all dropped off here by... Anyway, so at that point, I had to explain everything to her, and I'm like, I don't know why he's acting so immaturely. Whole ordeal. And at that point, I was done. I was like, you know what? This is ridiculous. Like, imagine if I had a kid at this point.
Yeah. And you're so lucky that it was only a year of your time.
True. Very true.
Think about that. I remember not knowing if you were in or out of the order. So at that point, did you announce you were out of the order? Or how did that
that's
happen?
what was weird is it was like I had never really just made a like conscious decision that I'm leaving the order. It just all was kind of about my marriage. And I'm like, obviously my marriage isn't working out. And so I filed for divorce. I hired a security guard to serve the papers because I was scared to death of his dad.
I think you still were going to like the choir in the order. You still kind of went to certain functions.
Yeah, I mean, this was my family. This is the only like real.
It's the only place you've ever really known, and everyone you've ever known is there. But then it's like constantly going there. You're going to be subjected to seeing his family, seeing his dad, seeing him because he was a very devoted order member.
Yeah.
So it's like I feel like it was probably very hard for you to heal.
Yeah. Well, and the divorce process is decently long. Like mine was expedited because of my situation, but like during the divorce process, I was still going. I wasn't going to church, but I was hanging out with all my friends there and all that kind of stuff. And so it was just like it was a gradual leaving rather than a like I'm leaving now type of thing, you know, because it was like I was leaving my husband, but now what do I do with my life? You know, so it was a little strange.
At that point, though, I don't feel like you really believed 100% in it anyways anymore.
Yeah, at that point, I was like, obviously, something's wrong here.
You left and you were at Teresa's house. Did you have money from your account in the order? Did you take it out of the order bank?
Right, so I had spent like all of my money on the wedding, and so I really didn't have much because I was just working part-time while I started college, and at this point, and I was working at the order grocery store. So once I went to Teresa's, like I didn't have a job at all. So I ended up going to nail school for the summer, just a 3-month program while I was applying to other places. And I finally got a job 3 months later. But for the 3 months, I had $300 that I was living off of. And so thank goodness Teresa let me stay with her. And she helped me a lot.
That you were able to survive off of $300.
Yeah.
Now we would just die.
I know.
It's
a lot.
Did you close your account with the order or did they?
No. So basically, I don't remember how long after, but I was officially divorced at this point, and I got a call from one of Paul's wives, one of the leader's wives, and because she worked at the office, the order bank, and she was like, "Hey, I'm just calling to let you know that you owe $50-something on your account. When are you planning on paying that off?" And I was like, "What?" I basically, I asked her, I was like, "Do you have any documentation of this? Because I don't recall taking a loan out with you guys at all."
And you haven't touched that account for like months at that time.
For quite some time.
I swear, like I had worked, I'd mentioned this in other videos, I had worked at the order bank at the front desk, and I had heard so many stories of people who were like just teetering on leaving the order, and then all of a sudden they were in debt, or their money would go down significantly, or like they would come in and tell me these stories. Like was one of the ones. She was like, all of a sudden I have the same amount of money, and then all of a sudden I'm in debt, and then when I throw a fit, then they give me like 10,000 of my money, even though I had like 50,000, and it's like there's no documentation, so you really can't do anything about it.
Yeah. Yep.
So, but I feel like they do the whole in-debt thing to see how loyal you really are to the order, because they probably were wondering where you stood on the order, because I've heard multiple times where people get phone calls being like, "Hey, you owe us money," and then I feel like if they give the money, they're like, "Okay, they're still an order member."
Right.
But you were like, "What?" And you didn't have the money to give.
Yeah. No.
So I think at that point they kind of realized you were out. And when you don't sign the 10% form yearly, then technically you're not an order member anymore.
Right.
Some people will disagree with that. Some people will be like, "Well, as long as you have a bank account, you're still a member." And still was putting money into his son's account after he had left because he was hoping that he could still be considered a member in the eyes of the Lord or whatever. But I think at that point you were technically considered an ex-member at that point.
Yeah.
That's because you got a divorce, and like divorce is not a thing in the order. Usually when two people divorce, at least one gets kicked out or the other one leaves. Because I don't know of any divorced people in the order. It's only happened, like, I probably can count on one hand how many times I've ever actually seen a divorce happen. And they both don't stay. I keep forgetting she was only 18 when she actually, she barely turned 18 when she got married. You were 19 when you left?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was 19 years old.
So all this is happening, you're still a teenager. But I feel like because he was still in the order, maybe a lot of people were questioning him, and he just wanted to, he was very much the type of person, I'm not trying to, like, shade him or anything, like, I hope he's happy, whatever. He just, at that time, was a very much really into how his reputation was, within the group.
Yep.
And obviously a divorce is not good for your reputation, and you're going to have a hard time getting married after that, especially because he wasn't Kingston.
Yeah.
So maybe he felt like he just had to throw your name under the bus to save his own.
I guess. Yeah. It was very surprising, but I feel bad for him, to be honest, in the sense that, yeah, he had to deal with his own life afterwards. It was like, I felt like after I made that decision to just not end up going back and just creating my own life outside of the order, I was free. I felt so much better. And
it's almost like it was like a blessing in disguise, because you got to taste freedom out here and you never went back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we're done talking about the marriage. Like, now you're divorced, now you're on your own. Did you struggle with your finances? Did you struggle? You didn't have a car.
Yeah.
You got $300.
Big time from the beginning, because...
And you didn't take half of his money.
Right. Yeah. So in the divorce, I just wanted it to be done. I did not want to have to deal with anything. And I remember being told by the lawyer, by my aunt, by everyone, that technically I could get half of everything. And I didn't want to hurt him. And I didn't want it to take longer than it needed to. And I knew that if I tried to take half of everything, it would have been a lot harder, a lot more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So finally, I was convinced that I would put in there that I get at least half of our wedding gifts.
Which you should.
But anyway, it was, he got everything else. So
So you struggled with money. You didn't have a car for what, 3 months?
6 months. So I finally got a job about 3 months after I had, like, moved out from living with him. And then for about, I think, 6 months, I saved up everything that I could. I remember the first paycheck I got, I was so excited to go to the grocery store and get anything that I wanted, and I still was very frugal because I'm trying to save up for my car, and I would have one Hot Pocket a day at work.
That was your lunch.
That was my lunch, that I could save up and get my car. And
I remember my first paycheck. I was so excited. I was like, I get to keep this. It was only like $200, but I was like, this is mine. I don't have to take. Okay.
Yeah.
I felt so rich.
It felt amazing. Yep. And even though I was going home on the train with all my bags of groceries, I was so excited. But yeah, I saved up for 6 months to buy my first car. And I remember this moment, it was a reality check where I went to go buy this car off of KSL, and the guy that I met up with, I went to go check it out, and I was like, okay, here is $5,000, right? And so I started counting out all of the money, like the 20s, the 10s, the 5s that I had that saved up $5,000 worth, a stack of money. And I remember getting to about $1,000, and he was like, it's okay. I trust that you have $5,000 in there. And I could tell he was like kind of tearing up a little bit. And that was, I like look up like,
you're like, oh, this isn't normal.
Yeah, like, okay.
Because usually people are like, okay, here's the money, give me the card, bye-bye. But so you're feeling sorry for me? Why?
Yeah. Yep.
I get the car, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had moments like that too, where, not that they felt sorry for me, but like I didn't understand why they were acting like I was weird. Like when I went to the bank and I would be like, I want to turn in $30, and I'd have 20 and 10, and then I'd be like, and then I want to draw out $10 because we did that at the office at the border bank. Be like, you have to turn it all in so they can take that 10% and then give it back. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I want to turn in the 30 and then get back 10, and then he just like slid the $10 bill to me, and I was like, I'm stupid. Did you struggle with having relationships with outsiders or communicating with outsiders?
Yes, definitely. With I had a lot of social anxiety. I think that I had a little better time, I guess you could say, because I did go to an outside school for my high school, but
you were exposed to that. Because at the
Yeah.
time, too, there was no Vanguard. There was no, like,
Mhm.
order junior high. So we either had to do homeschool or
go to public school.
And so
Yeah.
our mom had grown up in public school. So I feel like she didn't think it was that big of a deal.
Yeah.
So we did have at least a little bit of an understanding of how outsiders are.
Yeah. But I do remember getting a lot of social anxiety in certain situations and just feeling, and my face would get all red and I just didn't know what to do.
I have that same
So-
issue. Even though, like, we did grow up-ish around outsiders, it's like there's this thing in your brain that makes you just know that they know you're different and you will, like, I always felt like I will never be able to relate to him. Even though Tessa was my best friend,
Yeah.
but Tessa understood all of those back parts of me. And,
Yeah.
like, that was very rare to find someone who could just connect with me and not coming from the same background.
Exactly. Yep.
So I feel like you made more friends after you left than I did. Like, it was very hard for me to relate.
Yeah, I feel like I reconnected with a lot of people that I made friends with in public school, a couple of them at least, and then I feel like my field of work, I work with a lot of girls, a lot of women, and so it was easier. I found it a lot easier to connect with girls and women. It was really hard for me to connect with guys because of my experience with guys in general.
Mm-hmm. Definitely with me, it was like I still feel this way. Like, I get kind of uncomfortable with men of authority.
Mm-hmm.
I get very uncomfortable
Yeah.
with them, and I just assume, like, every single boss that I've had hates me. Or, like, I'm always in trouble. Because that's how
interesting.
every authoritative figure in my life has treated me. Like, you're doing something wrong.
Right.
So I feel very threatened.
I do remember actually. So I remember a point in time in my job where I was helping somebody, and they were they were in a management position, and they were asking me to help them with a couple of things, and I remember them looking at me and being like, "Hey, you don't have to be like my servant." They literally said that, and I was like, I stepped back, like, "Oh, I know. I just trying to help you." And so I could tell that I was
going above and
beyond to help them because I felt like they
obligated
were,
almost, right?
I was obligated to. And it was interesting. I just realized that I was doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I feel like in the beginning I would like do that, but now I'm almost the opposite. Like, I kind of am a little bit condescending towards them now because it's almost like I'm in this resentful stage towards any man who has any authority over me.
I did go through a phase like that.
Yeah. Like, right now, my boss, I'll be like, this is probably so bad, but I'll be like, talk down to him. I'll be like, if you keep showing up late, then I'm going to have to demote you.
Yeah.
I do it as a joke, but it almost is like a power thing for me, and I'm sure they don't like it.
Yeah.
And then, like, when they do something, I'll be like, good job, you were in the place you're supposed to be. I might give you a raise. And I'm like the lowest person on the totem pole, like, walking around like I own the place.
Yeah.
But, like, that's better than just hurrying and doing everything that they ask me above and beyond for, like, minimum wage, like I used to do.
Mm-hmm.
Know your worth.
Yep.
Know your worth. Let's talk about where you are now. Now you don't have as much anxiety with the outsiders, or do you?
Right. So I feel like I still have my moments, and I used to be on anxiety medication for a little bit trying to manage it. But I feel like therapy really, really helped quite a bit. Mm-hmm. And I was able to titrate off the anxiety medication. And so now it's just flare-ups here and there. So
I feel like I've noticed a big difference in people who leave the cults and choose therapy and people who don't.
Yeah.
I feel like the ones that choose therapy are able to progress a lot faster.
Yep.
Everyone needs it, not even people who are not from cults.
Right.
So you're still struggling with it, but at least you're aware and you're trying to progress in that area.
Exactly.
What about in your financial? You were very financially unstable. Where do you feel on your, like, do you feel like you're financially stable finally?
Definitely. Yeah. I feel like, I mean, everyone wants to progress and always make more money, but I don't worry about it anymore.
Yeah. I definitely feel like from eating a Hot Pocket every day and saving up for your car for $5,000, and now she has her own house, she has her bachelor's degree, I feel like she has gone a lot further than a lot of people your age too. So I would say she's very stable. I know that a lot of people watch my channel that are from the order or from other cults, and that's why I kind of like to show where you're at now, and that there is a lot of progression, and it's not everything that you guys hear, like, oh, they're on drugs, oh, they're so miserable, da da da. They're going to tell you all these things because they want you to be afraid to leave. But in reality, a lot of ordered people actually are very successful when they leave because we do have a lot of work ethic.
Yeah.
But that's why I like you to see like where they're at now. They're doing pretty okay. Obviously, you want to do better every day, which is how you got to where you're at now.
Right.
But that being said, I do know that a lot of ordered people watch my channel, and I like to ask people who have left the same question, end my videos on this question. If you were able to tell these viewers from the order something and have them actually take it in and take the advice, what would that be? What would you tell them?
If they would actually listen
and
take the advice. Yeah, I feel like I would just say, if there is anyone trying to tell you that you can't or are incapable of having your own true connection with Christ, with God, then they don't have your best interest in mind. Meaning, if they are trying to tell you that you have to go to a more godly person, a more righteous person above you in order to have any connection to God or any answers from God, then they have a completely different agenda in mind. They're trying to manipulate you into doing what they want.
Because I feel like a lot of cults have this in common where they make you feel like you can't trust yourself. But at the end of the day, we all have our own, whether you want to call it, the Holy Ghost or your own internal intuition, right? You are capable, more than capable.
Yeah.
And if you let someone else take that from you, you kind of lose your power.
Yeah. If everyone did focus on their own connection, that's how religion should be. Like,
it's interesting because in the Bible it talks about don't trust in the arm of flesh, and a lot of these cults are you need to trust in the arm of flesh.
Basically.
You can't trust yourself.
Yeah, they basically turn you against yourself when the whole point, I feel like, of the Bible and of Jesus is to have your one-on-one connection with Christ.
Exactly. Like, it doesn't mean anything. A lot of people in the order would say, I can have faith off of my parents, and that's not, no, you cannot have testimony, you cannot have any type of standing off of someone else's spirituality. I think that's a very good place to end it on, and if you guys have any more questions on my older sister's story, leave them down in the comments down below. Do you want me to link your Instagram?
Sure.
Okay, so I'll have her Instagram down below too. You can go follow her. And if you guys would like to see another video that's like this, or you have more questions about her story, let me know in the comments down below. And thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!
Bye!